Hey guys, how you doing? Today is going to be something a little bit different. Today I want to talk about motivation and what is it, and more specifically, what is your motivation? What's my motivation? What gets us up and out of the door in the morning? What happens when that motivation disappears? So when we first start riding bikes, motivation is always high. Loads and loads and loads of people are taking up mountain biking now. Bikes are sold out everywhere. Certainly in Spain, you cannot buy a bike anymore unless you want to spend a lot of money. Motivation is high. People want to get out. They want to get fit. They want to feel good about themselves. And that motivation, that initial motivation, can last you a long, long time because you feel yourself getting better. You feel yourself getting stronger. You feel yourself getting faster on those climbs, faster on those descents. You can start to beat those mates now who have been riding for a lot longer than you have. Things are good. But then all of a sudden, one day, something will happen, something will come, and that will change. That might be a fall. Maybe something happens in your personal life. Any number of things can affect that initial motivation you had. Motivation is not something that we notice really when it's there. We only tend to notice it really when it sort of begins to wane, when it begins to disappear, when it begins to develop into something that doesn't get you out the door. And this can be applied to everything. This is not just mountain biking. This is life in general. But specifically to mountain biking, what happens when you have that accident, when you have that crash? A lot of us are excited to get back in the saddle. A lot of us are excited to get back and riding with our mates. But without realizing it, sometimes that motivation takes a dip for whatever reason. That might be from fear, especially if you've had a fall, if you've broken a bone or something. Obviously, once you're getting back on the bike, that initial fear can be very off-putting. But confidence and motivation, while they do overlap slightly, they're not really the same thing. What happens though when you have that accident, when you have that crash, and you just don't want to go back out again? When that happens, it can be quite scary. So for myself, early last year, I sold my business. In of itself, that should be great, and it was. But then a couple of months later, my family life changed forever. And that changed everything for me. If you've been following the channel up until that point, I'd been publishing regular content. My confidence was at all-time high. I'd been riding a lot with Andrew from Trail Rider. He'd been over a couple of times. I felt really good on the bike. And then all of a sudden, my world came crashing down. I no longer wanted to ride. I no longer wanted to work. I no longer wanted to do anything. So if you have been following the channel, you've noticed that for the last year and a half, that my video schedule has been irregular, to say the least. It's been that lack of motivation, that original motivation that I had to get out, to have fun, to have a good time, to get better, to get faster, to beat Jorge, which never happens. That's been kind of worrying for me. It was also natural up until that point. The motivation was natural. I didn't have to. Yeah, sometimes you didn't want to get up when the alarm went off at 6 in the morning and it was still dark and it's freezing cold. But you'd said you were going to meet up with a mate and you got up and you went and you had a blast. It's a very rare occasion that you go out on a bike ride and didn't have a good time. But I actually started going out on rides on my own primarily, and I just didn't have a good time. And I thought, why did I bother going out? So what do you do then? Those first 4 months after everything changed for me, I think I rode twice, maybe. That's never happened to me. What I didn't know was sort of how to deal with this, how to get past this, how to push past this. And it's only very recently that I've come to realize that while motivation can come and go, like, all of a sudden I feel like, I've got the motivation back, I feel pumped to go. Something has happened to trigger that, whether we're aware of it or not. That's awesome. If it just comes and you don't know why, don't feel like you have to question it. Just get out on the bike and get that confidence back and get that flow back and enjoy those descents and those climbs. But when you need that motivation to come back and it's not just happening, I think I've realized that the only way to get this back is to force its hand. You say, well, you can't force motivation, but I think I probably disagree. I think what you can do is create the habit. When that alarm goes off in the morning, yes, maybe you do hit the snooze 3 or 4 times, maybe you do get out of bed later, but still force yourself to go and meet with those mates, or force yourself to go and take those 2, 3, 4, how many rides you used to take a week, until that habit starts to recreate itself. And I think once you start to recreate that habit, I think that's when things start coming back. That's when the confidence starts coming back. It's when the speed starts coming back. When the fitness starts coming back. I can't enjoy rides if I'm not feeling fit. If you start getting those regular rides in again, yes, you don't feel like it. Yes, I don't feel like it. I'm talking you, I'm talking we, but really I'm talking me, If I can start to force myself to get back out on the bike, whether that's on the gravel bike, whether that's out on the mountain, whether that's on the road bike, I don't care. Just getting out on the bike. And in fact, I think when you're trying to recreate a habit, which for me will then revitalize the motivation, so to speak, I think the increments are so small. You know, the fitness comes in small increments, the confidence levels grow in small increments, and it's so small that perhaps we're tempted to think, this isn't getting any better, you know, I'm not feeling any more pumped, I'm not feeling any happy, I'm not feeling any faster. But I think if we can take a look back, maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks back and say, actually, do you know I am? And I think it will get to that point again when you get that one downhill run where everything just clicks again and you feel like things are back on track, things are starting to happen again. And I think that's the moment you can reclaim that lost motivation, say, look, I can feel myself getting better, I can feel myself getting faster, all these things I initially wanted for myself. And while your motivation might change, you know, initially for me, my motivation was obviously all these things, getting better, getting faster. But also for me, mountain biking was a bit of therapy. It was getting out, it was switching off my mind and just focusing on that downhill, which is focusing on that technical section. I don't need that so much. My life has changed. I don't need so much that escape. And now it's going to be something else. I still don't know what that something else is yet, but that will come, I'm sure. And if it can come for me, then it can come for you, and it can come for anyone. So I think it's about trying to recreate that habit to reactivate that motivation. But these are just my thoughts, you know, it's something I wanted to share with you. It's something I was very unsure about sharing. In fact, I've been putting off this video for a long time. Not the kind of thing I talk about. I don't even really like talking about sort of woo-woo personal things, you know, on the channel. But part of the reason I wanted to share this was because I wanted to ask you, what's your motivation to get out and ride? You know, what were your initial motivations? Did you end up coming up against that wall, that motivation wall, and it just all disappearing and having to build it back up again to get back into the saddle? But let me know below, and I'll see you in the next video for a more regular ride orientated video, guys. Take it easy. Hasta la próxima.